Tom, it's such a pleasure to meet you again.
Happy to see you.
You left quite an impression last time you were in Berlin for Crimson Peak. We're still talking about the walk. But I must say I was very pleasantly surprised with your performance within this movie, and I was wondering, where is that coming from? Is it just like the topic, or is it maybe the experience that you had like in the past? Because I also felt that your performance in Night Manager was also kind of like changing your whole performance in general. Is that just like my perception, or what happened?
It's interesting, you know, because I signed on to this before I signed on to the Night Manager, but it takes a while to get the locations, and so I knew I had a gap, and then I read the Night Manager and went off and made that, and then came back and made this. So, but I knew both roles and both projects were interesting to me because they were different. Both those, Jonathan Pine and Captain James Conrad, were different kinds of characters to characters I'd played before. I had a wonderful time playing Loki for a long time, who has long black hair and wears a lot of leather, and doesn't maybe just has a particular playfulness and looks after himself. And Crimson Peak was a gothic romance, and these two characters were more. Their journey, they made good choices as opposed to bad choices, and that appealed. And this particular film was just about being in an old-fashioned adventure, like the movies we grew up watching as children. Something about that was really appealing.
Well, because take it please as a compliment, because I feel like usually everybody goes in there, it's like, oh, that's the guy from the Marvel universe. But this time I was like, oh my God, Tom is really having that role. And also one perception, or like observation, which I had yesterday at the red carpet, it really feel like you were like a little boy who's really excited and happy about being in his hometown, on his home turf, representing this movie.
Yeah. It's something about like the premiere of the film being in London and in Leicester Square. I'm still so in touch with the version of me who used to come to Leicester Square to watch big movies, and that was part of the excitement. And I feel so lucky that I get to be in movies and bring them home, especially something like Kong, who's been an icon of motion pictures for over 80 years. And I had to pinch myself that I still, it's my job now. I've been doing it for a while, but you never lose that. I'm so lucky to get to do what I do.
But what is it that keeps you grounded? Because I even posted a picture of you yesterday on Instagram, and instantly, like even on Twitter, and everybody of your fans was like retweeting it. But you still seem to be so grounded. What is it that keeps you grounded? There must be something. Is it your mom that's just like, Tom?
Yeah, probably, yes. I think most people would say it's family and friends and just real life, It's funny, I went I went home from the premiere last night, and I remember, it's just simple things. I remember that I put a wash on and I needed to put it in the dryer because I was going to wear these trousers today. So it's just those things. Life goes on, it's definitely family and friends, for sure.
And in general, as a final question, what is it to this movie? Because really, like for the first 30 minutes, I was like, this is like such a great movie. It has this entire 80s appeal, just like all these old school movies.
Yeah.
But something modern to it, and I'm still not really getting what is it that makes it so modern.
I think it's interesting. I mean, it's set in 1973, which feels closer than 1933, which is where you're used to seeing Kong. This period setting when he comes to New York and goes up the Empire State Building. But also, 73 it has a resonance with now. It was an interesting time politically. People were quite sort of destabilized by what was going on. And I think maybe people feel that now. And so there's a sort of both, like 2017 and 1973 can talk to each other in that way. And we're so dependent on technology now. And in this film, you see that technology beginning to be invented. So satellites are beginning to take photographs of the Earth from space, and we depend, the technology of Google Earth that we depend on is just starting now. And you sort of sense that there's something in all of that about the natural world that we have to stay in touch with. That actually it's good to be in touch with the wildness of nature, and that's what Kong represents.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, man.
Congrats on the movie.
Appreciate that, Patrice.
176 movies that you have done as an actor to this point.
Really?
Apparently, according to IMDb.
I don't believe them.
What is it that keeps you still doing whatever you feel like doing? Because the thing is, like, you have done everything. You have your own colorful lightsaber. You've been working with Tarantino, with Spike Lee. You've been such a major influence, not only to the hip hop culture, but just to pop culture in general. What is it that makes you still saying, like, yeah, you know what, Kong, why not?
It's fun. I mean, you find stuff that you're gonna have fun doing. I mean, King Kong's something I've been watching since I was a kid. So when somebody says, yeah, they're making a King Kong movie and they want you, you go, really? Okay, great. You know, that sounds like fun. So you show up. And, you know, when you have the ability to make choices, you can make choices that are sometimes films that you saw when you were a kid that you always wanted to be in, and that comes along, you do it. And sometimes it's just something that, you know, strikes you as being exciting enough that you want to watch yourself in it. Because I like watching myself in the movies, so I always wanted to see myself in a King Kong movie, so here I am.
I heard about it. You like to see yourself in movies, and also you like free stuff. I assume most of these sneakers are also free stuff, as I saw in the...
I bought these. No.
the DeGeneres show. Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, I'm from Western Berlin, and I have to say that it was very surprising once, because I was really at the end of the Cold War. So I recall the first time that I was like somewhere in California and saw like Russians on the beach. So that was kind of surprising. I was like, wow, great. Times have changed, evolved, like people are getting together. For you, I mean, you were 68 at this time, shooting in Vietnam, and also like playing a soldier who didn't lose a war, but who's abandoning the show. How was it for you just to be in this country that once used to be such an enemy of America and now being like one of the greatest places to shoot a movie?
Well, it's kind of great to be there. I don't know that, you know, they were actually an enemy of America more so than we were an enemy of those people. You know, we were the invading force. They never showed up on our shores. And we took over a war from somebody who, you know, had invaded also and was trying to colonize. The great part about it was we had guys with us who were our military advisors who had actually been in the war. So they knew a lot about Vietnam, or, you know, we could be in certain places and they would go, you know, if you go over that mountain, you're 2 clicks from, you know, being in Laos or whatever. It's like, really? Yeah. And they knew people out there. And they talked about the place, even though they were in a war there, they actually spoke about it with a reverence and a care for it and the people that was very different from the attitude we had when we were watching it on the news of them like being our enemy or whatever. And as we roamed around there and were in and of the country, while we were there, we discovered, you know, the serenity and the peace and the spirituality of everybody that was out there. I mean, you know, being in the city is one place. You know, it's hustle, bustle, blah, 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 thousands and thousands of, you know, motorbikes everywhere. When you get out in the country, it's very serene. People are doing the same thing they've probably been doing for thousands of years. You know, been over in the rice paddies growing rice, walking a water buffalo down the highway, you know.
And as my final question, I mean, I know there's a certain kind of secrecy, but is it that most of the talk on sets were with some former Marvel characters, or is it maybe more Mitchell and Hawkins who came towards you and said, like, listen, how is that and this and that? What were mostly like the conversation you had to have?
We talked about kind of all kinds of stuff. We didn't talk about Marvel that much. When we were in Australia, there was more Marvel talk because Tom was also getting ready to do Thor, and he had to come back to that very same studio to do Thor. That was when the Marvel conversations came up. But mostly, you know, we just hung around, talked about whatever was going on, football, basketball. We laughed at Corey because Corey was getting ready to start doing the new 24. So we started calling him Black Bauer as opposed to Jack Bauer. So we had fun with that and him working out, trying to figure out how to hold a gun and look like a badass.
Thank you so much. Once
You're welcome.
Again, a great
pleasure.
Pleasure was all mine. Thank you.